Okay, I'm no guru guy. I'm just a truck driver slash farmer. I've been trying to figure things out most of my life. And it seems like I was more successful as a businessman when I was a kid rather than when I was an adult. After 9/11, I started to wake up to the New World Order and the system and all that garbage. And I was fighting the system. But it wasn't until COVID that I started learning how to work parallel with the system. I haven't quite got it figured out yet, but I'm starting to figure it out. And what I've noticed over the years is anyone who fights the system, most people who fight the system, end up just being paupers. You know, they spend all their time and money and energy being broke and going, against the system, doing everything against the system. And even though I don't necessarily agree with the system, the system is designed twofold. It's not like Reaganomics. Reaganomics is not what they explained it to be, where it's like a trickle-down theory. It's actually a trickle-up theory. And I guess you might say, Keynoenomics is the only way to get trickle-down theory is to invest in the system. Because the system is designed to take money from the middle class. And the lower class too, but primarily the middle class. Middle class supports the system. So you have the poor and you have the moochers. It's like someone told me one time, there's a difference between a smart criminal and a dumb criminal is that the smart criminals run for political office. But they use the dumb criminals for job security. So you have the people who actually need the system, like, the widows and orphans, if you will, like the Bible would say. And then you have the moochers. And you have different kinds of moochers. You have moochers who mooch off the system, and then you have moochers who mooch off, how do I say this? I know one in particular. He mooched off me for 10 years. But anyways, he pretends to be against the system. He pretends to be fighting the system. And he mooches off other people who are fighting against the system for his survival. And so he's just a different kind of parasite. So you have the predators and the parasites. The parasites are the moochers, the criminals, who are feeding off of the system at the bottom of the system. And then, they're not only hurting the middle class, but they're also hurting the people at the bottom who actually need the system. So the ones who actually need it aren't getting what they deserve or what they need because there's so many parasites at the bottom feeding off of the system as well. Then you have the predators at the top. And basically they're feeding off of everyone. So the middle class is feeding the system to support the parasites and the people who actually need it, and therefore also supporting the big shots who control and run the system. So the only way to actually get ahead in life is to either become the predator, become the big shot at the top, or invest in those people so that we get some of our money back. That's the only way to beat the system, from what I understand. Now, I started figuring that out around 2020. Hindsight's 2020. But anyhow, I should have bought a lot more silver. But anyways, I have a theory. I guess basically like during quantitative easing, you want to buy more paper assets, and during quantitative tightening, you want to buy more liquid assets. But we're at that transition right now. So I guess right now you want to buy both, because silver right now has more than doubled in value. Now I bought some of my silver at $25 an ounce. I bought some at $35 an ounce. So at $35 an ounce, it's almost tripled. And at $25 an ounce, it's almost quadrupled. Now, when it went to $40 an ounce, I was like, I should buy more, but I want to keep investing in dividend stocks. So I did just that. But I probably should have bought more silver, because now that would have doubled in value. They say it's going to get upwards to 500 plus. Supposedly Goldman Sachs, I think it was. I can't remember the details. Underbought actual silver and oversold paper silver. And so now they have to buy a butt ton of silver and to make up for the difference, because technically they're being fraudulent. So that's going to jack up the silver price pretty quick. And overnight, since I heard about it, silver prices went up like $5 to $10. I can't remember exactly what it was yesterday, but it was 70 something yesterday. But that was over the weekend, you know. So now it's 80 something, you know, and climbing. So, you know, we should probably buy a lot more silver right now. Unfortunately, I don't have any cash flow, or I don't have any liquid cash right now. Well, actually I do. I got about $2,000. I could buy, you know, a bunch of silver. But anyways, or actually I only have about 1,000. I gotta move 1,000 of it over into my other savings account for this mobile home that we're gonna probably have to finance, because we don't have the cash to pay it outright. But basically, we are in a housing bubble, and a lot of people are going to be losing their assets when it comes to housing and land. So now is not the time to be buying property. Now is the time to be selling property before it's too late. Pretty soon, the property values are going to drop dramatically, and then we'll want to buy property. Right now, I want to buy silver so I can pay off my property, so I own it free and clear. Now, when it goes up to $500 to $1,000 an ounce, I probably have about 50 ounces of silver. I need more. But at 50 ounces, if it goes up to $1,000 an ounce, I'll be debt free. So, I'm okay. I'm secure. I can use my current silver to pay my debt, and then just invest in paper assets for after this so-called collapse that's coming. Because I'll be debt free. We have the farm in Collins that we own free and clear. We kind of got lucky on that one. And then we still gotta, because we ended up buying it out of foreclosure. And then we still gotta get the mobile home out of foreclosure. But that's gonna take a couple months. And we were gonna pay cash, but we don't have the cash. Maybe. Depends on how much they'll settle for. We're trying to come up with, the money in cash, but I'm also wanting to buy some silver. Maybe I can use the silver. By the time that rolls around, the silver might be worth more, because it's going to be a good 6 months probably before we can buy the mobile home out of foreclosure. Right now they're doing the repossession process, because the mobile home foreclosure is different than a regular house foreclosure, because a mobile home is treated like a vehicle, not land or a house. So they have to go through like a repossession like they would a vehicle, and then turn around and sell it back to us. So we're just waiting for that process. Everybody has to be served, and then they have to go through the court dates, blah blah blah. And then I'm sure that there's like a waiting period, because like when you buy domain names, you don't really own them. It's more of a lease purchase, or not even a lease purchase, it's just a lease. If you don't pay that lease, then somebody else can buy it. But you have like a 90-day period where you can get that domain name back at a premium price, but you can get that domain name back. So they give you a waiting period before you can buy somebody else's domain name if they don't renew it. And then sometimes they'll also try to the person who owns the server that actually is subleasing. So they actually own or lease out the domain name and sublease it to you. So they actually can hijack it and then turn around and try to sell it themselves at a higher price. See if somebody's willing to pay it. But if nobody's willing to pay it, then they just reset it back to the regular price. Yeah. And certain types of real estate might work the same way, because that's digital real estate. But anyhow, I know more about digital real estate than I do actual real estate. But I'm learning both. I'm learning actual real estate, kind of moving away from digital real estate. So, yeah, so we got that. And we have about 5,000. Yeah, we have about 5,000 between the two of us. But we want to get 10,000 saved up, because we think we can get the mobile home for 10 to 15,000. We already offered 15, but that was when we thought that the mobile home was probably worth closer to 30,000 retail. and then it would cost them about $15,000 to relocate it, but then we found out it's only worth maybe $20,000, and it would still cost them $15,000 to move it. So we could, anything over $5,000, they'll be making money, right? So we would just offer them $10,000 and they should take it. They should be happy. So, but we already offered 15, so we're gonna stick with that, and then say, well, we know it's actually worth less, and blah blah blah. And we were gonna offer less, but we decided this would be a win-win solution. It would make everybody happy. Because we're probably going to have to finance it anyways. And if we finance it, they're going to get extra money out of us through the financing. So they should be happy with 15 plus whatever interest they're going to make off that 15. Because it's more money than what they would be making if they tried to move it and flip it. Anyway. So we have the advantage there. But I still have my 15 acres that I still owe 30 grand on. So, long story short with that, I did have farm animals on it. I still technically do for now for the next 2 months. But I've been moving my farm animals off because I have psycho neighbors that have been, them and their dogs have been killing my livestock. Mostly my girlfriend's livestock, but they've killed off over half of her birds, hers and my birds. They've killed off most all of my lambs and my baby goats. Possibly, maybe my original ram that I bought. I'm not 100% sure how he died, but his guts were eaten out. So something killed it, whether it be natural causes and then something ate it, or something attacked it. Don't know. This all happened last year, right after they moved in. But one neighbor moved in 3 years ago, the other one moved in a year ago. And after the other one moved in a year ago, that's when I started having problems. And then also they were like, oh, we want to buy your property. And then, but yet then they wanted to bully me and lowball me for my property. They want to give me $2,000 an acre when right now it's worth $8,000 an acre. But I paid $3,000 an acre plus interest. So why would I take two? Right? But at the same time, I can't keep my livestock over there because they're dying. Ever since this guy moved in, my livestock's been dying. So luckily we have the Collins property. And so we're moving all the animals over there. I've had to sell a third of my livestock. What's left anyways, what didn't get killed. I sold a third. I'm taking a third to the butcher, and we're keeping a third and relocating them to our Collins property. And originally my brother wanted, after I started having problems with these guys and they started pushing me out trying to get my property, my brother wanted to do a storage unit business. I'm like, whatever, dude, you want to run it, I'll help you, but I don't want to run it. I don't want to babysit it. You know, I'm looking for passive income. So I'll help. I'll help. I'll collect 40%. You know, I'll put in 50%. I'll take out 40%. You put in 50%, take out 60%. Overall, I'll be collecting more like 35%. It'll be 30 in the beginning, and it'll probably average out to 35%. And then Because if you put in 50 and you're taking out 40, that's actually 30%. So, but over time, as it starts paying for itself, the 30% will start becoming 35%, and it'll probably never get up to 40%, but it'll gradually get closer and closer to 40% over time. And so that would be my passive income, because that's all I'm interested in now. I'm not interested in busting my ass to try to make a buck. Been there, done that. So, but we talked to the lawyer about setting up the trust and the limited partnership and the LLCs and all that stuff for the storage unit business. And then I got my appointment with my accountant in May. I thought it was April, but it's actually May. So we can't go talk to her until May. So we went to the banker, my banker friend, and talked to him, because I knew he would, be a straight shooter and point us in the right direction. And he basically told us it'd take about 15 years to turn a profit on that business. He said what he would do is he would subdivide the property and sell it. Because right now, we can get a pretty penny, and people are always looking for land owner finance. And he gave us a formula, which I forgot the formula. I didn't write it down, but I can go back and talk to him again and write it down later. But he basically said, if you subdivide it, sell it for X amount of dollars per month with no money down, you'll have every property filled in 30 days. I was like, wow. So, of course, my girlfriend says we should charge a down payment, and I'm thinking, well, maybe our down payment should be our legal fees if we have to evict them. That way, we're not out any money, and they're basically paying us the legal fees for the eviction if we have to get rid of them if they don't make their payments. So I might do that. My girlfriend thinks that we should probably do more of a down payment, because most people do, but it might take longer to get the properties filled. So I might, I came up with the idea of just doing what it would cost in legal expenses to get rid of them if they don't pay their bill. So, but because we have this housing bubble, my neighbors who are trying to push me out, they way overpaid for their property. One paid $10,000 an acre, and the other one paid even more than that. And he wants to tell me that my property is only worth $2,000 an acre. What I think he's trying to do is he's paying big money for his property, and he's trying to balance out his portfolio by buying mine, pushing me out, bullying me, pushing me out, buying mine cheaper, so that he brings his average down. But that's not going to happen, because I'm not going to take a loss, especially if you're going to bully me out of my property, push me out. So I talked to my lawyer about it. She goes, oh yeah, I just had a guy sell his property for $14,000 an acre, owner finance. I was like, wow. And we was looking up on the internet the other night, and we saw properties, 3-acre lots, going for upwards to $18,000 an acre in our area. So I mean, I could quadruple plus my money, and then charge 10% interest on top of that. Now, I'm not going to try to rape people, but whatever the property's worth at the moment, that's what I'm going to charge. But that being said, I also don't want, I want to give people an opportunity. I don't really want to screw people over. So I don't want to try to sell it at $18,000 an acre. Although originally when I saw those numbers, I was like, hell yeah. But then I got to thinking, that's really not fair. You know, after interest, I'm probably only paying $6,000 an acre. So if I wanted to make a profit on that, I should sell it for closer to 12, 10 or 12, like the neighbor's paying. Well, people may not be able to afford that even. However, they'll be able to afford it better with 3 acres than they would, say, 20 or 40 acres like the neighbors have. So, so the neighbors, they may not be around much longer if this housing bubble pops and they're upside down on their mortgage. They may not be able to afford to keep their property. So it's like if I just keep buying things like silver, other, renewable assets while they're down, and paper assets while they're down, when they go up, I can pay off my debt and maybe even buy out the neighbors who are trying to force me out. Tell them, oh, it's only worth $2,000 an acre. It's like they told me. Turnabout's fair play. So, my theory is basically, you want to have a combination of assets. You want to have real estate, you want to have gold, silver, maybe even some gems. Not diamonds though, maybe black diamonds, but not regular diamonds. Regular diamonds are practically worthless. But, have some renewable assets. Buy the renewable assets as they're down, and then you can use them as leverage while they're up. For example, the silver. I bought my land, my 15 acres, as the property value was going up, but I still got it on the cheaper side. So if I turn around and take the silver that I bought at the cheaper value, it's going up in value. Say it reaches $1,000 an ounce, I can go cash out that silver that I have right now, pay off all my debts, be debt free. Then I have no worries. As long as I have a job, as long as I can put food on the table. And we do have land, we do have livestock, so we can grow our own food, we can produce our own meat. We just need money to pay other bills. So as long as we still have our jobs, or we can get another job, we'll be okay. Then I have my dividend stocks, which right now they're not paying a whole lot. They're only paying me about $3,000 a year, $3,500 a year, which you can't live on, but it'll supplement our income. Right now, overall, my stocks are up 11-12%, which is good. They were down last week 9%, but this is total. So basically, that 11.72% is my stocks, which are down, versus my dividends, which are up. So my dividends are up, yield on cost 21.5, but my stocks are actually down on average. I don't know, it doesn't say what that average is percentage wise, but it should give a capital gains percentage right there, but it don't. Anyhow, maybe it will up here. Apparently my portfolio is ahead of the S&P 500, but that's only because of dividend stocks, I think. If it was just regular stocks, I'd probably be below the S&P 500. But anyhow, so I think having paper assets, i.e. dividend stocks, and renewable assets is good. What I was trying to do is I was trying to get this number up to where my IRA is. My IRA is at 20 grand. So I'm trying to get this number up to 20 grand. I probably should have been focusing on growing my gold and silver at the same time, because now they're going crazy. So I'm going to stop right here and only reinvest my dividends that I'm actually receiving instead of investing more of my income into the dividend stocks. I'm just going to reinvest my dividends as is, not a drip, not a automatic drip, but a manual drip. The way I explained before is when I get my dividends, I go in and look at what paid the dividend, and then if it pays more than the interest rate on my debt, so like say my credit cards are 20+%, one is 19%, one is 24%, the other one's 34%. So I'm going with the 19%. So basically anything that's over 20% or 19%, I'm reinvesting into that dividend. Once I get all my credit cards paid down, which I'm doing pretty good about, my 34% card is at $1,000. My highest one right now, I think, is 7 grand. And it is my 24%. And in my 19% one, I have at 4,000. And the only reason why that one is so high is because I went out and bought these GPS shock collars, GPS dog shock collars for the sheep and goats when I moved them to Collins, because we don't have enough proper fencing over there yet. So I spent 2 grand in shock collars, but then each collar is going to cost me about $100 a year as well for the plan. Meanwhile, we're going to be also investing in fencing and hay, because we ended up having to put them in Laura's guinea fowl yard that she built for her guinea fowl, or for her birds. It's just like a 6-foot fence. So now we're going to work on a 4-acre yard for the sheep and goats and pigs. So yeah, and that's going to cost a few grand as well. Now granted, that money I spent on the shock collars I could have put towards fencing instead, but we're gonna have to let the animals out to eat, forage off the land before we're gonna be able to get the fencing up and afford to pay for the fencing. So the shot collars were the cheaper option in the short run, because finding people to actually come out and do the work is also another problem. Nobody wants to work. After COVID, everybody was getting all these people were getting all these handouts, and hardly anybody wants to work now. So that's another problem. And me, I gotta work out here on the road extra time because I'm making less money where I'm at. I need to get my hazmat back so I can go somewhere else and make better money. Supply and demand. So pretty soon, because the government makes it harder for people to get their hazmat license, it's eventually gonna hopefully pay better than it used to, because supply and demand. And I have almost a perfect record. The only thing that is going against me is that I have to go through Homeland Security now to get that hazmat license, Homeland Security background check. So, because I'm a freedom fighter, so to speak, and I speak against the New World Order, that might go against me with the Homeland Security background check. But that being said, I'm not going against the system like I used to anymore. I'm trying to figure out how to benefit from the system, because I'm tired of being broke, and I'm tired of people not listening. You know, it's like, sorry dude, I gotta stay in this lane. I gotta get off on this exit up here.
In half a mile, take exit 170 on the right, onto US 62 toward Alliance. Speed warning. Speed limit reduced ahead.
Wait, what?
Pass this first exit, take exit 107B.
Oh, okay. I hope that's a good route.
Take the first exit on the right, onto US 62.
Now, you know what? I'm gonna stay here.
Speed warning.
It's only 16 more miles, and it's all highway. That might be highway too, but it's an unknown. And Google says this is similar ETA, so I might as well just stay here. No stoplights. Anyway, okay. Where was I? Okay, yeah. So, for a while, I was trying to wake people up about the system and blah, blah, blah. But nobody wanted to listen. Well, not nobody. 99% don't want to, or not 99%. 1% is the system, and they're using the system to their advantage. Then you have the 3%ers who are fighting the system, but they're just as broke as everybody else because they're spending all their time, money, and energy on fighting the system. And then you have the 94% that are either clueless or they're just at the bottom mooching off of the system. Now I don't know what the percentage is at the bottom mooching off of the system, but almost 50% of the population is on some sort of welfare system, So there's quite a bit mooching off the system, whether they need it or not. Anyhow, so I just got tired of trying to warn people about the system and nobody, or most nobody, listening. Just making fun of me, calling me a conspiracy theorist and all that bullshit. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. People don't want to listen. I'm going to start making some money off the stupid people who don't listen. You know, I'll support the 3%, but I'm going to invest in the system and start learning how to make money off the system. And then in that way, when the people don't listen to the 3%ers, they'll make me money because I'll be joining the 1%. I'll still support the 3%, but I'm also supporting the 1% because, you know, I don't know. It's complicated. It kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but you know, it's like I'm tired of being broke. I'm tired of being poor. I spent most of my life trying to figure out how to become rich and successful, and through being an honest businessman, and I've been broke ever since. You know, my grandfather was able to do it, but he's one of the very few who are able to actually pull that off. I was unable to pull it off. So I learned that basically the only way to beat the system, if you're not a successful guru guy, business person, entrepreneur, inventor, is to invest in those people. Buy real estate when it's cheap. Buy gold and silver when it's cheap. Buy jewels when they're cheap. And invest in dividend stocks. Now the way I invest in dividend stocks and the way you invest, or maybe should invest, might be two different ways. But either way, you should be buying dividend stocks. And I think Jaspreet, whatever his name is, the Indian guru guy that I follow, the minority mindset guy. Hang on. Douchebags. Anyways. Dumb drivers. They're everywhere. So anyhow, I lost my train of thought. That's alright, I was probably on a caboose anyways. So, I know I was saying, oh yeah, okay, I remember where it was. So Jaspreet, the minority mindset guy, says, I think he says either, he's got like a 10, 15, 75 rule. And I forget exactly what the 10 and 15 part was. It's like save 10, invest 15, or invest 10 and save 15, whichever way it is. You're basically saving and investing 25% of your income, and you're living on 75%. So, saving and investing. Now, it depends on how you invest. It could also be a savings account. Like, I would not put my money into a actual savings account, except maybe I'd keep a couple grand in there and that's it, which is what I have. I try to keep about $1,000 in my one account that I pay my insurances out of, and I probably pay about $500 to $1,000 a year out of that account. So I just keep a balance of $1,000 in there at all times, and in that way I have a $500 buffer that if I need that money for an emergency fund, I have it. Because my insurances don't all come out at the same time. But I think the biggest chunk might be like $500 at a single time. So, or at a single month, I should say. So I try to keep a minimum 500, maximum 1,000 in there. So I have a $500 buffer. And then my mortgage account is under 500. It's like, that's approximately, my mortgage is approximately $300 a month. And so I just try to keep $1,000 buffer in there as well. That'll give me an extra $500 buffer every month. So for an emergency fund. So if I need that money, I got it. Or say I need the money that instead of, say my mortgage comes out and now I have $700 or $800 in that account, but I need money somewhere else. I can basically be like, well, I have 3 to 4 months worth of mortgage payments in that account, so I'm okay. I can let it go down to 500 before I start putting money back in. And I could put some money somewhere else that I need to, like silver, for example. So I keep $1,000 in that account. Then I got my pickup truck payment, and now I have a credit card with that bank as well. Well, that's my 19% interest rate credit card. So I keep $1,000 in that account as a buffer. My pickup truck payment is about $400 a month. So I keep $1,000 in that account as a buffer, and then any money that I put, and I put 10% of my check in there, and then after I divvy up my portions in all my other accounts, the rest of the money goes to my credit cards. And so then I put 50% of what's left over into that account and into my other account that I pay my other credit card out of. And then, so anytime that account gets over $1,000, that checking account that bank that I have my pickup truck and credit card with, whenever that account gets over $1,000, then I just pay that extra money towards the credit card or the pickup truck, whatever balance is higher. Which right now it's the credit card, but last month it was the pickup truck. So that's why my credit card balance is a little higher, because I paid extra on my pickup truck last month instead. Now the interest rate on my pickup truck is 14%, where the interest rate on my credit card is 19%. But I figure I just pay down the biggest debt when it comes to that bank. I'm doing things a little bit different there. So the credit card will most likely always be more than the pickup truck, but occasionally it might be lower. Because I just put, every week, I put 10% of my check into that account, and then after I divvy up my funds into my other checking accounts for my other expenses or savings accounts for potential expenses, then the rest goes onto the credit cards. And I typically, Jaspreet says basically he uses his credit cards for all of his expenses and then pays them off every month. Well, I don't have the luxury of being able to pay mine off every month, but I'm paying them down every month, or every week I'm paying them down, a few $100s. So I might put a couple hundred on there weekly between all 3 credit cards. But I'm putting a few hundred towards them weekly at paying them off. But I don't really put a lot of money on my credit cards. I just try to do my auto renewals on the credit cards for the most part. But I have had a problem where, like, occasionally someone will steal my information. Not really like on a large scale, but like at Burger King, I had somebody use my card information. Now, they can't steal my information through the RFID chip because I removed my RFID chips. But so they either took a picture of my credit card or something. So they compromised my credit card at the Burger King. Because a week later, when I was on the road, I saw another charge on my credit card for $8 for that same Burger King that I was at a week prior. And I contacted my credit card company and I was like, hey, I just got a charge for Burger King today in not my hometown, but my neighboring town where I ate at a week ago. Somebody at that Burger King took my information and used it today or yesterday, whatever day it was. And so I had to get issued a new card. But if something like that happens, your credit card's actually more protected than your bank account. So I only keep like $50 in my bank account. So if that card gets compromised, I don't lose a lot of money either. And I used to have 3 types of checking accounts in every bank. I had a billing account, which I had no card to, only checks. And then I would have a debit card account, which I would have a debit card for, but I would remove the RFID chip. And then I would I would use that instead of using my credit cards, which I probably should still do. And then I would have a chip card for places like Walmart or Shell gas stations where they won't let you use a card that don't have a chip. There's a couple other places too. Sap Brothers won't let you use a card that don't have a chip either. So, so the chip card, I used to only keep like $25 in. Now I keep about 50 because of inflation. But I keep about $50 in my non-chip cards too. The cards that I take the chips out of. Fucking asshole. Wait till the last minute. Cut me off. Think of selling my brakes. Oh, and he didn't even want this lane. Fucking dumbass. And he's a truck driver too.
Veer right onto I-76.
You know, it's like some people can do things and pay attention to what they're doing. Some people can't even drive and pay attention to what they're doing. It's like some people don't even belong behind the wheel. Some people can't even walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. Anyhow. with this truck is it will adjust the speed to the vehicle in front of me. So I don't have to worry about running into anybody. 99% of the time, the truck, I have a smart truck that figures it out before I do, or as quickly as I would, or better, I don't know. So sometimes not as good. But either way, it warns me if a crash is imminent. You know, if somebody cuts me off, it'll beep at me. Even though most of the time I already see it because I'm pretty observant. But anyways, the smart truck definitely helps me be a safer driver, especially when I'm doing things like this. Now, I'm not really looking at my phone that much. I'm just holding it and talking and letting you look at what's on my screen more than I am looking at my screen. But anyhow, so in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is, hopefully you didn't buy any real estate here recently. If you did, I would try to figure out how to get rid of it and make a profit. Because we're about to have problems. That being said, if you have enough silver to get you out of debt, then you'll probably be okay. If not, you need to do one of two things. Go buy silver ASAP. Maybe even some copper. I've been collecting copper pennies for the last, I don't know, forever. I've been collecting silver for quite a while. Gold too, but not near as much. Idiots. They cut me off when that lane is ending. Now they're going to cut me off again. Anyway. Most people can't afford anything else. Oh well, except for platinum. Looks like gold is higher than platinum and palladium. So silver, platinum, palladium, copper. I wouldn't worry about nickel. That being said, I would collect actual nickels, because there's actually a dime's worth of nickel in every nickel. And if they're trying to get rid of paper money, coins, go digital, eventually those nickels are going to be valuable. Anyway, so I should have bought more silver when it was under $75 an ounce, but I think I'm gonna go hurry up and buy some more before it gets to 100. And next time I'm home, I'm gonna go try to find me some silver. I have at least 30 ounces of silver, if not 50. But I'd like to have at least 100 ounces. So I got $1,000 I can spend. That'll get me another maybe 10 ounces. If the price stays under $100 over the next week, because I won't be home for another week. So, that being said, I have to do a reset here soon. Maybe I can find a silver dealer and get me some junk silver. And that's the other thing too. I would buy junk silver. I wouldn't buy any of this fancy crap, because you're gonna pay an extra $25 an ounce, $10 to $25 an ounce for that fancy shit. Why? Why spend extra money on fancy silver when you can buy silver at cost? Doesn't make any sense. I buy older coins basically at spot prices. And yeah, I got a couple few grand sitting at home waiting for the price to go up. And yeah, like I said, as it reaches over $1,000 an ounce, I think I'm gonna cash out at that price and pay off all my debt. You know? And then, whatever, I won't cash it all out maybe, because the price might still go up even more. You know? So, I'll just keep paying down my mortgage. It's $30,000 right now. If silver goes up to $1,000 a coin, I'll cash in 30 coins, go pay my debt. Boom, I'll own my land free and clear. I can subdivide it and sell it. Or I can stay there, because like I said, my neighbors are probably going to lose their properties. One paid $600,000 for a property that's only worth maybe $200,000. And the other one paid $250,000 for a property that's probably worth $100,000. So yeah, my property I paid $3,000 plus interest. Of course, these guys are paying interest as well. So they're paying even more than what they think they're paying. I paid $3,000 plus interest. Mine will probably be worth about $5,000 once everything balances out. I was talking to another guy who is kind of a douchebag, but he's smart when it comes to money. And we was talking about land, and he was actually my previous neighbor. He bought that property for $300,000 and some odd $1,000. Had a house and 80 acres. He sold off 40 acres. Not sure what he sold it for. Then he sold off the other 40 acres with the house for twice what he paid for the whole thing originally. So he made probably 3 times or close to 3 times what he paid for that property. And he only lived there long enough to not pay capital gains tax. Not very long, a couple years. And then he flipped it for almost 3 times the price and turned around and bought something bigger, probably for cash. And now he's probably sitting pretty. So, but we was talking about the prices going up, and we both agreed that the price will probably balance out after the bubble at about $5,000 an acre. So that's probably what my property's actually worth. It's about $5,000 an acre after the bubble pops and it rebalances itself. It'll probably be worth less for a moment and then go back up to about $5,000. So I'm sitting okay where I'm at. And like I said, my silver goes up, even the $500, but I'm not selling at 500. I'll sell at 1,000. But my silver goes up to $1,000 an ounce. Then I'll sell off, 30 ounces of silver, pay off my land. Boom. 30 ounces of silver at, we'll just say $35 an ounce. I paid between 25 and 35, so we'll say 30. So 30 times 30. I would have paid under $1,000, or we'll just say 1,000. I would have paid 1,000, and then it went up to $30,000 worth of value. So it would have 30x'd its value or whatever. Yeah, 30x. 30x its value. Boom, cash that out, pay off my land, I'm debt free. Made 300% basically, or whatever, saved 300%. I would have saved $30,000 with my $1,000 investment, or $29,000 with my $1,000 investment. Not bad. Not to mention, we also got a really good deal on our Collins property because the people tried to scam us. They defaulted on their contracts, our contract, their other contracts, and we got everything at cost. Or we're getting everything at cost. So, yeah, we're saving a shit ton of money there too. So we're going to be sitting pretty after this is all said and done. My girlfriend is debt free, with the exception of her her RV payment. Once silver goes up, I'll be debt free, and I'll just be putting the rest of my money into dividend stocks. And then I'll be living large after that. Won't have any debt. She won't have any debt. And we'll be good to go. I just worry about my brother because he just bought a $200,000 house. He can flip it for probably $5 right now, and basically be debt free and have an extra $200,000 or $300,000. Then he could go buy something smaller and be debt free. Cash money. So, yeah. I just told him, I says, you need to either sell your house now or buy more silver so you can pay down your debt when the bubble pops. But anyways, alright, I'm getting close to my destination. I'm starting to get hoarse. I've been talking too long for over an hour. So, yeah. Basically, the moral of the story is buy paper and buy liquid assets. But buy the liquid assets as they're cheap and sell them as they go up. Buy more paper assets during quantitative easing. Buy more liquid assets during quantitative tightening. That's what I've learned so far. All right, party on, bye.